3 degrees Fahrenheit, has been recorded in Port Sudan. 22. Ground temperatures of 72 degrees Celsius or 161.6 degrees Fahrenheit have been recorded in the Adrar of Mauritania, and a value of 75 degrees Celsius, 167 degrees Fahrenheit, has been measured in Borku, northern Chad. 22. Due to lack of cloud cover and very low humidity, the desert Azuli has high diurnal temperature variations between days and nights. However, it is a myth that the nights are especially cold after extremely hot days in the Sahara. On average, nighttime temperatures tend to be 13-20 degrees Celsius, 23-36 degrees Fahrenheit, cooler than in the daytime. The smallest variations are found along the coastal regions due to high humidity and are often even lower than a 10 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees Fahrenheit difference, while the largest variations are found in inland desert areas where the humidity is the lowest, mainly in the southern Sahara. Still, it is true that winter nights can be cold, as it can drop to the freezing point and even below, especially in high elevation areas. The frequency of sub-freezing winter nights in the Sahara is strongly influenced by the North Atlantic Oscillation, NAO, with warmer winter temperatures during negative NAO events and cooler winters with more frosts when NAO is positive. 23. This is because the weaker clockwise flow around the eastern side of the subtropical anticyclone during negative NAO winters, although too dry to produce more than negligible precipitation, does reduce the flow of dry, cold air from higher latitudes of Eurasia into the Sahara significantly. 24. Precipitation. The average annual rainfall ranges from very low in the northern and southern fringes of the desert to nearly non-existent over the central and the eastern part. The thin northern fringe of the desert receives more winter cloudiness and rainfall due to the arrival of low-pressure systems over the Mediterranean Sea along the polar front, although very attenuated by the rain-shadow effects of the mountains, and the annual average rainfall ranges from 100 mm, 4 in, to 250 mm, 10 in. For example, Biskra, Algeria and Ouarzazate, Morocco, are found in this zone. The southern fringe of the desert along the border with Sahel receives summer cloudiness and rainfall due to the arrival of the intertropical convergence zone from the south, and the annual average rainfall ranges from 100 mm, 4 in, to 250 mm, 10 in. For example, Timbuktu, Mali and Agadez, Niger are found in this zone. The vast central hyper-arid core of the desert is virtually never affected by northerly or southerly atmospheric disturbances and permanently remains under the influence of the strongest anticyclonic weather regime, and the annual average rainfall can drop to less than 1 mm, 0.04 in. In fact, most of Sahara receives less than 20 mm, 0.8 in. Of the 9 million square kilometers, 3,500,000 square mi, of desert land in the Sahara, an area of about 2,800,000 square kilometers, 1,100,000 square mi, about 31% of total area, receives an annual average rainfall amount of 10 mm, 0.4 in, or less, while some 1,500,000 square kilometers, 580,000 square mi, about 17% of the total area, receives an average of 5 mm, 0.2 in, or less. 25. The annual average rainfall is virtually zero over a wide area of some 1 million square kilometers, 390,000 square mi, in the eastern Sahara, comprising deserts of Libya, Egypt and Sudan, Tazirbu, Kufra Dakhla, Karga, Farafra, Siwa, Asiout, Sohag, Luxor, Aswan, Abu Simbel, Wadi Halfa, where the long-term mean approximates 0.5 mm, 0.02 in, per year. 25. Rainfall is very unreliable and erratic in the Sahara, as it may vary considerably year by year. In full contrast to the negligible annual rainfall amounts, the annual rates of potential evaporation are extraordinarily high, roughly ranging from 2,500 mm, 100 in, per year to more than 6,000 mm, 240 in, per year in the whole desert. 26. Nowhere else on Earth has air been found as dry and evaporative as in the Sahara region. However, at least 2 instances of snowfall have been recorded in Sahara, in February 1979 and December 2016, both in the town of Ainsford. 27. Desertification and prehistoric climate. One theory for the formation of the Sahara is that the monsoon in northern Africa was weakened because of glaciation during the Quaternary period, starting 2 or 3 million years ago. Another theory is that the monsoon was weakened when the ancient Tethys Sea dried up during the Tortonian period around 7 million years ago. 28. Vegetation and water bodies in the Eocene, bottom, and early Holocene, top. The climate of the Sahara has undergone enormous variations between wet and dry over the last few 100,000 years. 29. Believed to be caused by long-term changes in the North African climate cycle that alters the path of the North African monsoon, usually southward. The cycle is caused by a 41,000 year cycle in which the tilt of the Earth changes between 22 degrees and 24.5 degrees. 25. At present, we are in a dry period, but it is expected that the Sahara will become green again in 15,000 years. When the North African monsoon is at its strongest, annual precipitation and subsequent vegetation in the Sahara region increase, resulting in conditions commonly referred to as the Green Sahara. For a relatively weak North African monsoon, the opposite is true, with decreased annual precipitation and less vegetation resulting in a phase of the Sahara climate cycle known as the Desert Sahara. 30. The idea that changes in insolation, solar heating, caused by long-term changes in Earth's orbit are a controlling factor for the long-term variations in the strength of monsoon patterns across the globe was first suggested by Rudolf Spitaler in the late 19th century. 31. The hypothesis was later formally proposed and tested by the meteorologist John Kutzbach in 1981. 32. Kutzbach's ideas about the impacts of insolation on global monsoonal patterns have become widely accepted today as the underlying driver of long-term monsoonal cycles. Kutzbach never formally named this hypothesis, and as such it is referred to here as the orbital monsoon hypothesis as suggested by Ruderman in 2001. 31. Sahel region of Mali during the last glacial period. The Sahara was much larger than it is today, extending south beyond its current boundaries. 33. The end of the glacial period brought more rain to the Sahara, from about 8000 BCE to 6000 BCE, perhaps because of low-pressure areas over the collapsing ice sheets to the north. 34. Once the ice sheets were gone, the northern Sahara dried out. In the southern Sahara, the drying trend was initially counteracted by the monsoon, which brought rain further north than it does today. By around 4200 BCE, however, the monsoon retreated south to approximately where it is today. 35, leading to the gradual desertification of the Sahara. 36. The Sahara is now as dry as it was about 13,000 years ago. 29. Lake Chad is the remnant of a former inland sea, Paleolithic Megachad, which existed during the African humid period. At its largest extent, sometime before 5000 BCE, Lake Megachad was the largest of 4 Saharan Paleolithics, and is estimated to have covered an area of 350,000 km². 37. The Sahara pump theory describes this cycle. During periods of a wet or green Sahara, the Sahara becomes a savanna grassland and various flora and fauna become more common. Following interpluvial arid periods, the Sahara area then reverts to desert conditions and the flora and fauna are forced to retreat northwards to the Atlas Mountains, southwards into West Africa, or eastwards into the Nile Valley. This separates populations of some of the species in areas with different climates, forcing them to adapt, possibly giving rise to allopatric speciation. The Great Green Wall, participating countries and Sahel. In September 2020, it was reported that the GG had only covered 4% of the planet area. 38. It is also proposed that humans accelerated the drying out period from 6000 to 2500 BCE by pastoralists overgrazing available grassland. 39. Evidence for cycles. The growth of speleothems, which requires rainwater, was detected in Holzak, Ashalim, Evensid, Ma'il Hame Sharktara cracks, Negev Savoa cave, and elsewhere, and has allowed tracking of prehistoric rainfall. The Red Sea coastal route was extremely arid before 140 and after 115 kya, thousands of years ago. Slightly wetter conditions appear at 9087 kya, but it still was just 1/10 the rainfall around 125 kya. In the southern Negev desert, speleothems did not grow between 185 and 140 kya, Miss 6, 110-90, Miss 5.45.2, nor after 85 kya nor during most of the interglacial period, Miss 5.1, the glacial period and Holocene. This suggests that the southern Negev was arid to hyper-arid in these periods. 40. During the last glacial maximum, LGM, the Sahara Desert was more extensive than it is now, with the extent of the tropical forests being greatly reduced. 41. And the lower temperatures reduced the strength of Hadley cell. This is a climate cell which causes rising tropical air of the intertropical convergence zone, ITCZ, to bring rain to the tropics, while dry descending air, at about 20 degrees north, flows back to the equator and brings desert conditions to this region. It is associated with high rates of wind-blown mineral dust, and these dust levels are found as expected in marine cores from the North Tropical Atlantic. But around 12,500 BCE, the amount of dust in the cores in the bling forward/alid phase suddenly plummets and shows a period of much wetter conditions in the Sahara, indicating a Danskardischa event, a sudden warming followed by a slower cooling of the climate. The moister Saharan conditions have begun about 12,500 BCE, with the extension of the ITCZ northward in the northern hemisphere, summer bringing moist wet conditions and a savanna climate to the Sahara, which, apart from a short dry spell associated with the Younger Dryas, peaked during the Holocene thermal maximum climatic phase at 4000 BCE, when mid-latitude temperatures seem to have been between 2 and 3 degrees warmer than in the recent past. Analysis of Nile River deposited sediments in the delta also shows this period had a higher proportion of sediments coming from the Blue Nile, suggesting high rainfall also in the Ethiopian highlands. This was caused principally by a stronger monsoonal circulation throughout the subtropical regions, affecting India, Arabia and the Sahara. Lake Victoria only recently became the source of the White Nile and dried out almost completely around 15 kya. 42. The sudden subsequent movement of the ITCZ southwards with a Heinrich event, a sudden cooling followed by a slower warming, linked to changes with the El Niño Southern Oscillation Cycle, led to a rapid drying out of the Saharan and Arabian regions, which quickly became desert. This is linked to a marked decline in the scale of the Nile floods between 2700 and 2100 BCE. 43. Ecoregions. The Sahara comprises several distinct ecoregions, with their variations in temperature, rainfall, elevation and soil. These regions harbor distinct communities of plants and animals. The Atlantic coastal desert is a narrow strip along the Atlantic coast where fog generated offshore by the cool Canary Current provides sufficient moisture to sustain a variety of lichens, succulents, and shrubs. It covers an area of 39,900 square kilometers, 15,400 square mi, in the south of Morocco and Mauritania. 44. The major topographic features of the Saharan region. The North Saharan steppe and woodlands is along the northern desert, next to the Mediterranean forests, woodlands, and scrub cordons of the northern Maghreb and Cyrenaica. Winter rains sustain shrublands and woodlands that form a transition between the Mediterranean climate regions to the north and the hyper-arid Sahara proper to the south. It covers 1,675,300 square kilometers, 646,840 square mi, in Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia. 45. The Sahara Desert ecoregion covers the hyper-arid central portion of the Sahara where rainfall is minimal and sporadic. Vegetation is rare, and this ecoregion consists mostly of sand dunes, berg, check, raui, stone plateaus, hamadas, gravel plains, reg, dry valleys, wadis, and salt flats. It covers 4,639,900 square kilometers, 1,791,500 square mi, of Algeria, Chad, Egypt, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and Sudan. 12. The South Saharan steppe and woodlands ecoregion is a narrow band running east and west between the hyper-arid Sahara and the Sahel savannas to the south. Movements of the Equatorial Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, bring summer rains during July and August which average 100 to 200 millimeters, 4 to 8 in, but vary greatly from year to year. These rains sustain summer pastures of grasses and herbs, with dry woodlands and shrublands along seasonal watercourses. This ecoregion covers 1,101,700 square kilometers, 425,400 square mi, in Algeria, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Sudan. 46. In the West Saharan mountains arid woodlands, several volcanic highlands provide a cooler, moister environment that supports Sahara-Mediterranean woodlands and shrublands. The ecoregion covers 258,100 square kilometers, 99,650 square mi, mostly in the Tassili Enaja of Algeria, with smaller enclaves in the Air of Niger, the Adra Plateau of Mauritania, and the Adra Desiforas of Mali and Algeria. 47. The Tibesti Jebel Awainat mountains arid woodlands ecoregion consists of the Tibesti and Jebel Awainat highlands. Higher and more regular rainfall and cooler temperatures support woodlands and shrublands of date palm, acacias, myrtle, oleander, tamarix, and several rare and endemic plants. The ecoregion covers 82,200 square kilometers, 31,700 square mi, in the Tibesti of Chad and Libya, and Jebel Awainat on the border of Egypt, Libya, and Sudan. 48. The Saharan halophytics is an area of seasonally flooded saline depressions which is home to halophytic, salt-adapted, plant communities. The Saharan halophytics cover 54,000 square kilometers, 21,000 square mi, including the Qattara and Siwa depressions in northern Egypt, the Tunisian salt lakes of central Tunisia, Chott Melga in Algeria, and smaller areas of Algeria, Mauritania, and the southern part of Morocco. 49. The Tanis Rift is one of the Sahara's most arid regions, with no vegetation and very little life. A barren, flat gravel plain, It extends south of Regan in Algeria towards the Adradesophagus highlands in northern Mali. Flora and fauna. The flora of the Sahara is highly diversified based on the biogeographical characteristics of this vast desert. Floristically,